Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be making caramel cake, and caramel cake is the recipe that my mama made for all of our birthdays. We didn't have a cake with buttercream icing or anything else. We always just had caramel cake for our birthdays, and it is the best cake in the entire world. And you will see in the course of this video kind of the perfect example of this, but one of the jokes that we always had as a family is the uglier the cakes were, the better they tasted. This is not a recipe that's going to end up looking incredible. I have a side business where I make cakes and cookies for a business because I'm a teacher and that's my side hustle. And I have not really encouraged people to ever order this cake, and I haven't really ever put it on any of my social media or anything like that because the chances of it turning out really funny looking are pretty high, but the chances of it turning out tasting amazing are also really, really high. So I really encourage you to make this recipe and try it out. It probably is going to end up looking funky and it is going to look different every single time you make it, but it is almost always going to taste delicious. And if you don't want to do the version that I'm making that's round, you can do it in a sheet cake form. You would just make the sheet cake and split it and do the thinner icing that you'll see in the video on the bottom layer and then whip it up and pour the rest of it over top. And that might be a little bit of an easier way to make it, but we always had them round, and so that's what I'm going to do in this video. And what you will see in the video is that one side of it is really, really pretty, and one side of it is, let's just say that's not the side I would have facing the front. So join me in the video, and then we will see the process, and let me know in the comments if you decide to try it out.
So the ingredients are pretty simple. You want 2 yellow cake layers, and this is a box of cake mix. And the biggest thing with this is you don't want them to be over baked. So to test when they're done, don't use a toothpick. You just want to press the top gently. If it springs back, it's done. If it leaves a dent, it's not. Then you want 2 pounds of brown sugar, light works best, a stick of butter, and then about 1/3 to a 1/2 cup of evaporated milk. And that is not exactly exact. You're just going to pour a little bit in to kind of cover the bottom of the pot. So then you're going to add your brown sugar, your evaporated milk, and your butter to a saucepan. And I'm using a little can opener to open the thing, and just a tiny little bit of evaporated milk. And then you're going to place that saucepan on the stove on medium heat. If you have a gas stove, medium heat works best. If you have a electric stove, you may be able to do high heat, but the gas stove tends to be a little bit hotter. And you want to stir that up a little bit just to kind of get it loosened up and everything mixed together. And then you're going to get a small measuring cup or a small cup and fill that up with not ice cold water, but cool water. And I am using this cup because this is a cup that Mima used. I don't make the rules. That's just what it is. You're going to stir that until it's smooth and cook it until it bubbles. And you see the bubbles on the side of the pan. You want the bubbles to be kind of across the entire thing. And then you're going to drop a few of the drops of the sugar mixture into the water and feel it. And I know that sounds kind of crazy. It'll be cool enough by that point. And what you are looking for is you want the edges of it to be defined and for it to be soft and not fall apart. So you're looking for the soft ball stage for this because this is a cooked icing. There are temperatures for the softball stage, but I've always done this by feel. So the first time it was not quite right, so we aren't there yet. When I poured it in this time, you could see the sugars kind of dissolving. So the sugar should hold together in the water, and that kind of determines that you've got enough solidification in there. So this is where we are. You can see the edges are defined. So I'm pouring off the water there, and then I'm going to show you kind of what it looks like. It's more like a caramel consistency, and it's going to hold together and hold its shape. It's going to be soft and pliable, not real hard, but it will hold its shape and not flow all over the place. And then you are going to pull that off the stove. Obviously turn your burner off. This is very hot and very sticky and will stick to your hands like hot glue, so be very careful. As you are moving this around, this is not a time to have kids in the kitchen because if this falls on them, it sticks to your skin very much. So then you are going to take your cake layer and put it bottom down on the cake board. I always use parchment in the pans just to make it a little bit less likely to stick. And then you're going to split the layer, and you're using a long serrated knife for this. And this is actually a trick I learned in culinary school that made it a lot easier. But you're going to keep the knife parallel to the board. Notice that the tip of the knife is still visible at all times. And make sure you can always see that tip, and then keep the knife about 1/3 of the way into the cake as you are going around. And that is going to give you the most even split that you can get. And then once you go all the way around, slide your knife through the rest of the way and place that top off to the side. And I just use the bottom of the pans as the place to set those. And then I use a ladle or a large spoon, stir the sugar mixture together, and you're going to put about 3/4 of a cup to 1 cup of the sugar mix onto the cake layer. A ladle is going to be about a cup of the mixture, so that will give you about the right amount. Then you're going to take an icing spatula and spread that around all over the cake, and because this is still pretty liquidy at this point, it's going to soak into the layer. But you want to spread that out all the way to the edges, and if you don't have quite enough to get all the way to the edges, you will add a little bit more just to make sure that all of that is coated. So then you are going to place the second half cut side up. Normally I level my cakes, but for this one I don't, because it's more of an old-fashioned cake and I don't really care if the top is a little domed. So you're going to lay that down and then repeat your process with adding the sugar mix and spreading it around as you did on the previous layer. And that is going to soak in and make the layers really nice. Then you are going to take your second layer out of the pan, and I will just use the pan as the place to cut this on. So I just place it bottom side down on the bottom of the pan and then split the layer just like I did before, making sure to keep the tip of the knife around and rotating around. And then you are going to set the top of the cake aside, because we are going to be using the top of the cake that way, and put the bottom half of the cake on the cake cut side up. Repeat your process of spreading the sugar mixture over the cake layer and spreading that around to the edges. And then that last layer is going to go cut side down with the smooth side up on top of it. And you do want to make sure that you clean your spatula after that, because you want your spatula to be nice and clean before you start the icing process. After you've done putting your icing between the layers, for the outside part, you are going to whip the icing. And so you're going to whip it until it gets thick enough to show ripples in the icing. And this is going to vary in the length of time that it takes. This was getting pretty cool, and so it did not take me very long. Then you are going to set your mixer aside and then pour the icing over top of the cake. And this is going to be a very, very quick process. And spread it around the sides as it drips down. And it will drip off the sides of the cake. You are going to be fighting time here, because this gets hard very, very quickly after you've whipped it. And it also is probably not going to be pretty. This front side that I'm able to work on really quickly is going to be the prettier side than the back. The back ends up looking very, very crumbly because of how quickly this icing gets hard. But I promise you it is going to taste just as good. As I mentioned, the uglier the cakes are, the better they taste. And you're going to smooth that icing on as best you can as you go around. And that back side is just looking crumbly and weird, and we are okay with that. If I am doing this for a larger cake, what I do is I will make the 2 pounds of icing to put it on the middle, and then 2 pounds to put on the outside, and pour all of that all at once and just work very quickly to put that around. But this is the final product. Like I said, it is not a pretty cake, but it is a delicious cake. This is the cake that brings back so many memories of birthdays celebrated with my Mima and my granddaddy. My granddaddy and I's birthdays were 3 days apart, and we used to work so hard to eat all of my cakes so that Mima would make him a new cake and not put the candles in whatever was left of mine, because this cake is so amazing and everybody needs their own cake. So we have 2 different membership levels that I would love to have you join. We have a 20 quart and a 5 quart level, and these levels get you early access to our videos as soon as we post them, and also we're hoping to do some live streams with those videos as well. So please consider joining our channel. If you do not have some money to join that, the great way to support our channel is to hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free and lets us know that you want to see more of our videos, and then you get notifications whenever we post our videos each Saturday. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.